Remember, guys, 59,000 Afghans were evacuated in the dying days of the Afghanistan Republic. Yeah, and all of those calls to vet those people, don't worry about it. We got plenty of good people out. Well, two Afghans brought to the United States charged with child sex crimes. It's just a different culture. It's just a difference of opinions. There's nothing wrong with that. Strangling wife while living on Wisconsin military base. It's like they should have vetted these motherfuckers before bringing them on the plane. Two Afghan men brought to the United States as part of President Joe Biden's massive resettlement operation out of Afghanistan has been charged with child sex crimes and domestic abuse while temporarily. Remember, according to Jen Psaki earlier this week, can't quite remember, all of these refugees, all of these migrants, they aren't planning to stay here that long, so they're just temporarily living in Fort McCoy, Wisconsin. On Wednesday, the Department of Justice announced federal charges against Afghans Bahrullah Noori, 20 years old. Let's try to see, and Mohammad Haroon Imaad, 32 years old. Either or, really, I don't know. According to prosecutors, Noori is accused of trying to forcefully engage in sexual acts with a minor, while temporarily living at Fort McCoy since being brought to the United States with tens of thousands other Afghans. Okay, and it only says with a minor, so it could be a fucking underage goat for all we know. Noori has been charged with 3 counts of engaging in a sexual account with a minor and 1 alleged account of use of force. The indictment against Noori states his victims were under age of 16 and or at least 4 years younger than him. Okay, so he's the one who's 20 years old, so they were under the age of... gross. In a separate incident, Imaad is accused by prosecutors of strangling and suffocating his wife. She was probably looking at somebody else and for a little bit too long for his liking. While temporarily living in Fort McCoy after arriving in the United States from Afghanistan. The alleged assault apparently took place on September 7th. His wife was asked for comment on the situation, but they couldn't hear her because she still had the plastic bag over her head. Both Noori and Imaad appeared in court in Madison, Wisconsin. Why? Just fucking ship them back. Ship them back. On September 16th to face charges against them, but are currently being detained in Dane County Jail. So you bring them over a humanitarian effort, and then you have to put them, again, even deeper on the taxpayer dime by holding them in Dane County Jail. It's a good system. It's a very good system. Their immigration statuses, whether they arrived as refugees, special immigrant visa holders, P2 visa holders, or parolees remains unclear. Nor is facing a mandatory minimum of 30 years in prison. That's great. You just collect some of the best and the brightest. And a maximum sentence of life in prison. Imaad is facing a maximum of 10 years in prison. So, don't rape underage kids. And if you're going to do something bad, just beat your wife, because the max you can get is 10. I'm sure both of these guys won't be doing even remotely that amount of time. They're probably hoping for extradition back to Afghanistan, because they'll just be brought back as conquering heroes because they're all just savages over there. But hey, guess what? China, Russia, Pakistan, all of the best countries in the world, special envoys they're sent down there to the Taliban in Kabul, called for inclusivity. We're going to see how inclusive they are, right? Obviously, kind of probably spoiled it by the thumbnail. Special envoys of China, Russia, and Pakistan have met and held talks with representatives of the Taliban terrorist group's self-appointed government, the Russian Foreign Ministry said on Wednesday. The 3 special envoys during the visit to Kabul on Tuesday and Wednesday held the talks with the Taliban-appointed acting Prime Minister Mohammad Haroon Imaad, Foreign Minister Amir Khan Mukhadi, Finance Minister, and others. Which one is the one who spent time in Gitmo? I think it was the Finance Minister. Russia's special envoy to Afghanistan, Zamir Kabulov. Sure, we used to fight you in sand, but now our tanks are stuck in sand dunes. And now we must deal with you at table. I hate it here. Pakistan's special representative for Afghanistan, very special, that must be a bitch if you guys are going to be doing a roll call. Alright, okay, so we have Zamir, okay, we have Mohammed, we have Mohammed. It's got to take a long time. And China's special envoy to Afghanistan, Wu Jianwang, were invited to participate in talks by the Taliban, which seized control of Kabul on August 15th. It feels like a lifetime ago at this point. According to the Foreign Ministry statement, the officials discussed encouraging friendly relations with foreign countries. Very friendly, very inclusive. And Afghanistan's neighboring countries. And they also touched on having an inclusive government to ensure territorial integrity, unity, and country, human rights, and improving economic and social ties. Let's see how they're acting that out, shall we? Okay. Top Taliban officials, executions, strict punishment will return to Afghanistan. Very inclusive. Will that affect everybody? I'm sure. A top Taliban official in Afghanistan said that the extremist group that now rules the country will carry out executions and amputations of hands and feet. Listen, if you're planning on doing something unjust, do it very quickly in Afghanistan while the blades and while all of the equipment that they got gifted to them by the United States military is still sharp and it's still functional. Because you wouldn't want to be beat to death by an AR-15 or by a M6. Instead, hope they keep their machetes sharp. According to the Associated Press, Taliban co-founder, Mullah Nuruddin Turbani, couldn't have a better last name, dismissed criticism of the group's previous rule in Afghanistan between 1996 and 2001, when public executions, floggings, stonings, and amputations were commonplace. Turbani, who lost an eye and leg fighting against Soviet invaders in the 1980s, is the head of the new Ministry of Propagation of Virtue and Prevention of Vice. This sounds like a beautiful thing, and you can anticipate that coming to a country near you. Everyone criticized us for punishments in the stadiums, and they said, well, what else are you supposed to do at halftime? Throw women in air? You might see ankle. But we have never said anything about their laws and their punishments, Turbani told Associated Press in a report published Thursday. No one will tell us what our laws should be. We will follow Islam and make our laws on Quran. During the Taliban's rule more than 20 years ago, convicted murderers were executed by a single shot to the head. Wow. Okay, murderers get a nicer treatment than acts of adultery. It's a very, very loving religion. In fact, I've heard it before, and I don't know if you guys have heard this one. I've heard that Islam is the religion of peace. Single shot to the head, or getting buried up to your shoulders and stoned to death. Not like the Rob Van Dam way. During that reign of terror, convicted thieves face the amputation of their hand, and those who are convicted of highway robbery, a foot and hand were cut off. And because they all have right-hand drives and stick shifts for the most of them, they weren't very bright, so they grabbed the right hand. So it would just be a bitch to try to roll down the window. Other than that, everything was all on the up and up. Or if they were married, they were given the choice of what hand and which foot to use, because you wouldn't want to be off balance if you need to show your woman some tough love. They're savages. In a change from the previous Taliban rule, Turbani told the outlet that the female judges will now be able to adjudicate cases. It's so great, we give them little plastic gavel and fake gown, and we can't even stop laughing long enough to hear the ruling, but they're allowed to stay, don't worry about it. Cutting off hands is very necessary for security. I actually agree, but for the wrong reasons, saying it had a deterrent effect. It's not clear whether the punishment will be carried out in public, but the government is studying the topic and it will develop a policy. Yeah, that's cool. I look forward to, public hangings and more people that'll be just drugged behind helicopters. For as long as they're optional. Because I heard this statement there as well. It's like, okay, they have all of this really important equipment that they got from the United States, and I don't want to denigrate the fact that they left $82 billion worth of infantry weaponry in the assorted vehicles over there. Don't undersell that at all. That's impossible to undersell, in fact. But after a while, okay, you know how intensive, how difficult it is to properly maintain a Black Hawk helicopter or any of the troop transport vehicles, any of those highly difficult to work on, highly specialized maintenance capacities when motherfuckers can barely fucking read? They're going to be a force to be reckoned with for a couple of months until some of those vehicles run out of gas. I'm just saying, it looks pretty bad right now, but there's going to be a lot of interesting things turn up on chop shops. I'm just saying. You need a couple of rotor blades, just wait until about next summer. A few more will be coming up on the market. But how inclusive are they being? Well, Taliban orders Kabul government female employees to leave workforce and stay at home. Yeah, but what are judges just going to adjudicate? Female judges just going to adjudicate over Zoom calls? Like, is that what we're going to be doing? Oh, okay. The Taliban terrorist group has ordered the majority of women employed in the Kabul city government to exit the workforce and remain at home. The interim mayor of Afghanistan's capital announced September 19th during his first. Oh my God! Can you believe it? Press briefing. Since being appointed by the Taliban, interim Kabul mayor Abdullah Namani, you must have to have a tangible amount of phlegm in your name in order to be appointed as a leader by the Taliban. I'm just starting to see a common through line here. Said that women must remain at home barefoot pregnant. People in South have that correct, regardless of their employment status, pending a further decision. Exceptions can be made for women who can't be replaced by men. Who's that? We need pot scrubber? Including some in the design and engineering departments. Oh, it's too queer to do any sort of interior decorating. We'll let women do that behind their veil where they can barely see what looks good on walls. But hey, we won't leave that up to gay men because we throw them off roofs. We need proper blinds so we don't constantly have the sun and the sky blocked through our window. We need proper coverings on our windows while we still have glass in them. Numi noted that before the Taliban seized control of Kabul on August 15th, nearly 1,000 of the roughly 3,000 city employees were women. No wonder why it was so easy to take over. They were working across all departments, and now they won't be. But don't worry, guys. This is the much more inclusive and much more diverse Taliban. The decision to prevent most female city workers from returning to their jobs is another sign that the terrorist group is enforcing its harsh interpretation or honest interpretation of Islam, despite initial promises by those in peace talks that would form a representative government with other Afghan leaders. You fuckers buy this for a minute? I don't think so. In recent days, the new Taliban government issued several decrees affecting girls and women. It told the female middle and high school students that they couldn't return to school for the time being. What, COVID policies? Do they have to wear masks? Do they need to come back once they get vaccinated? I don't know what's going on. Well, boys in that grade resumed studies this weekend. Oh no! Female university students were informed that studies would now take place in gender segregated settings, and that they must abide by strict Islamic dress code. Letterboxes. Lots of letterboxes walking around those hallways. Under the U.S.-backed government deposed by the Taliban, university studies could be offered as co-ed for the most part. Yeah, well, that time's long fucking gone. You can thank old Uncle Joe for that one. He wanted the segregated school rooms that he grew up with to come back to Afghanistan. So, mission accomplished, Joe. The Anti-Taliban National Resistance Front of Afghanistan, needed to shorten that, NRF, that's good enough, on September 20th condemned the Taliban's regime move to ban secondary school for girls in the country, saying it has always been separated in the country, and therefore the question of segregated classrooms should never arise in the first place. Yeah, about that. The regime's position, as elaborated in the various spokesmen, is but a reformation of the long-held retrograde views that women should be consigned to household chores, the NFR said. Its utter ignorance of the age-old reality of secondary education system in the country betrays the alien nature of the regime. Yeah, you should tell that to the Taliban, though. They don't believe in that shit. And guess what? If you talk too loud about it, off with your head. Because that's one thing I appreciate them for. You do something wrong, fuck around and find out. If we had more of that, wouldn't have nearly the crime spikes we've seen everywhere else. But with that said, I thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.